Hi, everyone. My name is Meredith Newman. I am a reporter with the News Journal. I am here with my colleague, Jerry Habraken. He is a photojournalist for the News Journal. Today, we're going to talk about Jerry's coverage last Wednesday when, of course, as many of us know, a violent mob stormed the U.S. Capitol, resulting in an insurrection and truly a dark day for our country's history. Jerry, your images were so incredible. I would love to talk more about what that moment was like for you. But can you talk about, you were there to originally cover a rally, which of course led to the events that I just described. But can you kind of tell us what the mood was like when you were covering that rally? You've done a lot of Trump related events. Did you feel something was different on Wednesday?
Yeah, we got there about 10 a.m. And yeah, like you said, I've covered numerous Trump-related events that are much smaller, and usually they're nice to me. They're welcoming. They thank me for being there. They're appreciative that I'm there to kind of make note that they're taking a stand about something, give them a voice. And right off the bat, Wednesday, it was very different. Once they could figure out that we were journalists or we were with USA Today, we were getting heckled and insulted and threatened. They'd tell us they were going to beat us up. They'd tell us to go away, call us fake news, all these things. So right off the bat, it was a complete 180 to any group of Trump supporters I've ever dealt with.
And I think a lot of people understand or know that reporters have been facing threats and acts of violence for a long time now. Not just, of course, under the Trump presidency, but it definitely seems heightened in terms of local to national journalists and photojournalists. I don't think a lot of people know what it feels like, though. Can you kind of describe how you balance in those moments of doing your job and capturing something that's really important while also making sure that you feel safe at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of the scariest part is when I was with the kind of the front line on the inauguration stage at the Capitol, and at that moment I had gotten split up with the other journalists I was with, and you don't have any cell service, so you're really on your own. So you just kind of have to be super aware of your surroundings and kind of keep your head on a swivel. Um, I wasn't wearing a press credential. I did my best just to kind of blend in because I kind of figured, if everybody around me kind of figures out who I am, I might be screwed. I don't know, who knows what could happen. So I kind of just tried to stay low, be very careful when I wanted to take a photo, kind of plan out the photo ahead of time. When I saw the moment, put the camera to my face, take a few shots, and then back off and give people their space. I tried to be, courteous and kind to everybody, and just kind of assimilate with the crowd and while I worked.
Mm. And if you haven't seen, for those watching, if you haven't seen Jerry's gallery, make sure to head to DelawareOnline.com. It's incredible work. I'm curious if there's a couple images that stick out to you that you wouldn't mind talking about that represent that moment, again, at the Capitol with the violent mob. Is there anything that you will kind of remember in terms of your images?
I think the ones that stand out to me are the photos of people reacting to being tear gassed. Because a lot of the people that I was photographing, dealing, on the ground crying or dealing with the effects of the tear gas, just look like everyday people. They don't look like, a member of the Proud Boys. They're not in militia gear. They're not, I think the stereotypes we assume with Trump supporters that are, going toe to toe with police and things like that. That there were just tons of people up there that look like, anybody's mom or dad or, someone you interact with on a daily basis, and seeing them, on this front line dealing with tear gas and getting really riled up and angry and being so passionate about, their beliefs, photographing those people was just like, I don't know, kind of like a slap in the face of was like, wow, any and everybody's out here and willing to get on this front line and take a stand.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, they think that they have this image of the Trump voter, but there were businessmen and CEOs and former military members who, as well as neighbors and people like that, a part of Wednesday. Can you talk about when you felt, because you were also there just until about curfew on Wednesday in Washington, D.C., but can you, at the Capitol, what was kind of the most climactic moment that you remember, just in terms of, again, the mob just storming the Capitol?
Probably the one instance where there were still police out there, and they were kind of shooting some pepper spray at the crowd and throwing tear gas down, and that first wave that got hit with those chemicals kind of backed up, and at the same time they're backing up and retreating. They're looking at the people behind them and saying, all right, next wave in, we're not done, I just got gas, it's your turn, and telling people to get up there, and that they didn't bat an eye, and they said, screw it, we're going up there, and they, in thousands pushed forward and pushed back, just a few cops, and that's kind of how they took control. There was very little police force out there.
I wanted to ask about that because I'm sure a lot of people were like me on Wednesday, where I was just sitting on my couch watching CNN as all this unfold. And just from the camera angles, it was very clear that there weren't the ratio from police officers, whether it's Capitol Police or eventually National Guard, to the actual mob was insane. Can you describe what it was in terms of seeing any type of law enforcement there? When did you start to feel like it was getting even in terms of police versus the mob?
I never really felt like it was ever even. I was so surprised when I got towards the front. I was, during the march towards the Capitol, I was in the middle photographing the crowd. And once I got to the front, there wasn't any large fences. There wasn't any barriers. When I got to the very front, there was not even a dozen cops up there to kind of block off thousands of people. It was very weird to not see a large amount of Capitol Police or military or anybody really. And it was like that all the way through. Once the police were pushed back, the mob pretty much had free run of the place. And by the time I left, that still hadn't changed. And it wasn't until kind of that evening that a larger amount of police were starting to show up.
Mm. And can you talk about kind of when day turned into night? Washington, D.C. ordered a curfew, I believe it was 6 p.m. What do you remember of just when it started to get darker out? I guess just, again, do certain images stick out to you?
Yeah, I wasn't doing a lot of photographing during that time. I had to get photos in and send photos to go online and for the newspaper. So I kind of had retreated back to where I could get service, because anywhere near the Capitol, there was no cell service. So I kind of retreated back. I was sending photos. During that time, it got real close to the curfew. I'd heard there were kind of groups of supporters walking around, and like the AP video crew had all their gear destroyed and pushed away. Mm-hmm. So it didn't seem like a good idea for me to be by myself with these groups running around and the curfew coming. So I ended up going back to my car and getting everything done. And that's kind of where they wanted me to end my shift that night. So I didn't see too much of that nighttime ongoings.
And you went to DC the next day. Can you talk about just the stark difference in what you saw and took photos of compared to Wednesday to Thursday?
Yeah, I started about 10:30 again that next day. And I figured there would be groups of Trump supporters walking around the streets and around downtown, and it was like a ghost town. There really wasn't anybody. Every now and then you'd see maybe somebody jogging, or it looks like somebody was going to work or to or from or grabbing lunch, but like there were not groups of people. You didn't see Trump supporters. Then I walked down to the Capitol, and there was, a 7-foot perimeter fence around the whole thing already. National Guard was out there. There was more Capitol Police out there. And you saw you saw more media than you did like Trump supporters out there at that point. Getting photos of the Capitol and the law enforcement out there. Yeah, you saw there's probably under 50 Trump supporters kind of scattered or all around the perimeter, either waving flags or just, conversing with each other. But it was the complete opposite of the day before.
And I guess just any final last observations, or I imagine you're still processing a lot of what happened. I think we all are on Wednesday, but are there any kind of images that you think will stick with you for a while?
Probably just, I've gone to a lot of different protests for a lot of different reasons in the past year, and just the amount of anger and motivation and passion that I saw on Wednesday goes beyond anything I'd seen at any other protest. So just seeing people in such kind of a crazed, motivated mood will probably stick with me for a long time.
Well, we are very appreciative of your work and all that you do. That's going to be it for us here. Make sure for all inauguration coverage, Jerry and our colleague Bill Bretzker will be covering the inauguration coming up in just next week or so. So for more coverage following what happened on Wednesday, as well as the inauguration, make sure to head to DelawareOnline.com. Thanks for watching.